So you found an abandoned baby squirrel, and I have no idea what to do. Before watching the rest of this video, please check the description for other crucial steps that are not in the video. First, the squirrel needs warmth. Find a cloth to wrap it in. Towels, blankets, or sweaters will do. Next, be prepared with gloves in case the squirrel is feisty and tries to bite. Check the squirrel for injuries. Neither of the squirrels I previously rescued had any injuries, but if yours does, you should bring him to a vet or rehabilitator. If you have no experience rescuing an animal and there are no wildlife rehabilitation centers nearby, call a wildlife rehabilitator immediately and ask for advice. Now determine the age of the squirrel. If its eyes are open, but it's smaller than your hand, it is likely 4 or 5 weeks old, the age of the 2 squirrels I've rescued. Check the squirrel to see if it is dehydrated. A good way to test is to pull the skin on the back of its neck slightly. If the skin goes back down slowly, the squirrel is dehydrated and needs electrolytes. Feed the squirrel. If the squirrel is under 7 weeks of age, it cannot digest solid foods and must have a squirrel formula. If you do not have squirrel formula and the squirrel is dehydrated, you can make a simple electrolyte mixture. To make an electrolyte mixture, pour a cup of water, preferably not city water. Add a pinch of sugar and a pinch of salt to the water. Stir and use an eyedropper to feed the squirrel. Squeeze the eyedropper slowly. Do not push too much water into the animal or it may get water into its lungs, which can be fatal for the squirrel. In my experience, some squirrels will drink the electrolytes greedily and others will reject it, depending on how dehydrated they are. Do not force it, but don't give up after the first try. As soon as possible, order a squirrel formula mix for the squirrel. The formula I recommend is Fox Valley Baby Squirrel Formula. Baby squirrels should be fed every 3 or 4 hours. Remember, every 3 or 4 hours means feeding it at night as well, so be prepared. This squirrel cannot be neglected. I don't have any footage of helping squirrels go to the bathroom or checking its gender, so I'm not going to talk about that in this video. I have some links to other videos in the description though. Remember that helping squirrels go to the bathroom is very important. If you don't, it can lead to the squirrel's death. Squirrels younger than 7 weeks old cannot go to the bathroom on their own and are used to going to the bathroom from being licked by their mothers. Check the squirrel for fleas. These bugs are usually found behind the ears, under the legs, and anywhere else depending on how many fleas it has. If the squirrel has fleas, which they very often do, fill a bucket with water and soap. Have a towel and hot water bottle ready. When the squirrel gets out of its bath, it will be very cold. Use a toothbrush to scrub the fleas off. The water will kill them. Make sure the squirrel's head is above the water. Do not let its nose or mouth touch the water or it will choke. Don't worry. In my experience, squirrels love baths and likely won't squirm and try to escape, but be prepared with rubber gloves just in case. When you stop noticing any more fleas, take the squirrel out of the bath and wrap it in a towel. Later, once it is dry, you can comb it to get any leftover fleas out. Have a cage prepared for the squirrel. We haven't had any issue with this because having pet geckos, we have a gecko terrarium along with a heating pad. But you can use a pet kennel or even a cardboard box instead. But make sure you place a heat source inside. We have a seed starting heat mat that we've placed inside, as well as a hot water bottle for extra warmth. Place the hot water bottle in the cage and cover the bottle in a thin towel. Place another towel on top, but don't flatten it out. This towel is for the squirrel to crawl under and fall asleep. Be sure to hide the heating sources under towels or blankets because when the squirrel is older, it will chew them up. Also, make sure that the towels and blankets you place in the squirrel's cage are ones you won't use yourself. These blankets will be soiled, chewed through, and may get fleas in them if you didn't clean the squirrel well enough. Once the squirrel formula arrives, weigh your squirrel. Both my squirrels weighed between 90 and 100 grams, which is the normal weight for a 4-week-old squirrel. In order to make this powder drinkable for the squirrel, follow the directions on the package. With both of the squirrels I rescued, I fed them 4 to 5 syringes in every feeding. You can stop feeding them squirrel formula once they're old enough to drink water and solid food instead. Monitor the squirrel. It is normal for the squirrel to be asleep most of the day. If the squirrel moves around in its cage and seems to be trying to escape, check to see if the heating pad or hot water bottle is too hot. The heating pad should be at 85 degrees Fahrenheit, 90 degrees at the highest. You may come upon the issue of having to go places while you have this squirrel. We solved this problem with this portable pet carrier that we got at a thrift store. It has space for a hot water bottle to fit inside, along with all the squirrel's blankets. It conveniently has 3 places to reach into the cage and is very easy to carry around. In my experience, baby squirrels don't get anxious during car rides, but you should try not to let the squirrel look out the windows, or else it may get confused. At 6 weeks old, the squirrel should be old enough to eat solid foods. It can eat small foods such as walnut or pecan pieces, sweet potato chunks, banana slices, apple chunks, or pumpkin seeds. However, the squirrel still needs its squirrel formula for hydration because it can't drink water yet. The squirrel also should be starting to be more adventurous. Allow the squirrel to explore and get exercise, but make sure he can't crawl under anything where you can't grab him back out. Also ensure that you do not have any pets nearby that could cause harm to the squirrel, i.e. cats and dogs. Squirrels need exercise and normally would wrestle their litter mates to get this energy. Squirrel teeth and claws are as sharp as needles, so be prepared to have a little monster attacking your hands. When a squirrel is wrestling, it will use its teeth, but will not draw blood unless it is not playing and rather protecting itself. However, its claws may break skin. Remember, this squirrel is not being bad when it scratches hard enough to break skin. It is just playing and is not aware it is hurting you. My first rescue squirrel went nuts during playtime. He would pretty much shred my hands, but I didn't mind that much. It was mostly other people who minded. If you don't want this to happen to you, it's better to wear gloves, but make sure the squirrel is used to these gloves. If it does not recognize this new hand, the squirrel may panic and try to protect itself, or run away and hide. At 7 weeks old, start feeding the squirrel whole nuts. I recommend Exotic Nutrition Pet Supply Company Squirrel Food Mix on Amazon. One tip I've realized is a little important. While using Exotic Nutrition, make sure the dental pellets are away from water, otherwise they will dissolve into a pile of mush and create an awful stench. At 8 weeks old, the squirrel should be able to start drinking water. Do not force it. Place a jar lid filled with shallow water for the squirrel to drink. Clean the squirrel cage. Squirrels require a clean habitat. It's best to clean the cage at least once a week by replacing the towels with clean ones. Jumping can be important for a squirrel. With my 2 squirrels, I taught them to be very good at jumping. My first squirrel, Cletus, leapt up to 7 feet in one leap. Patch, my second squirrel, leapt up to 4.5 feet. At 8 weeks old, the squirrel is old enough to be introduced to the outdoors. For me, this was the hardest part of caring for squirrels. You must acquire a cage that the squirrel can live in outside. Squirrels need lots of space at this age, so at the very least use a large dog kennel. This here is the prime example of a good squirrel enclosure. You must fill the cage with sticks for the squirrel to climb on. This helps them to be prepared for climbing through trees. Cletus was terrified of his outdoor cage and refused to go inside his nest. I tried many tactics to get him used to it, but every time I put him in his cage, he'd sit on top of the squirrel box and not move. It appeared that he didn't like his new environment and felt more comfortable when I was nearby, so I kept him indoors for a bit longer. After a few weeks, I introduced him to his outdoor cage again, and he was a little more comfortable with it, but would pace, trying to find a way out. And it didn't help when other squirrels would come over to check him out. I kept bringing him inside and getting his energy out at least once a day. I could tell it was his favorite time of day. Finally, I found out what Cletus needed. Toys. He needed things to preoccupy himself with, so I put this corn chain toy in his cage that I had bought previously for fun. Cletus enjoyed playing with that so much, and it helped distract him from escaping his cage. That is one example of a circumstance that could happen with your squirrel. However, Patch was totally fine with his cage. He loved the squirrel house, and I never took him out after I put him in. And now the release. If you want to be able to recognize a squirrel after releasing him, I say dyeing him is the best choice. What you're going to use is gloves, soapy rag, dye, brush, comb, soapy water, dry rag, and snacks. I researched all sorts of other ways, but the only one I could think of that wouldn't cause him pain is coloring his fur. Make sure you get animal-friendly dye and that you don't get it near the squirrel's mouth or eyes. When people think of setting free an animal that you raised from a baby, they think that lots of tears and emotional stress are involved. Scenes like that are featured in lots of different movies and films. And to be honest, that's what I expected when I was releasing Cletus, so I postponed his release for as long as possible. But when it actually happened, it was nothing like that. In reality, it was more like this excerpt from a book I found. When I released Cletus, I never shed one tear. When I placed Cletus on that tree, he changed in a way I'd never seen in him before. He seemed so fascinated with all the bark and leaves and twigs. He climbed all over the tree and seemed sincerely happy in a way he'd never been before. I wanted to stay with him longer, but eventually I accepted that he wasn't going to come back down. He had found where he belonged, and that was what mattered. That was the goal of the whole rescue. Looking back, I really do miss him, but it's important to do what's best for the squirrel, not what's best for you. Squirrels need their freedom. Releasing Patch was an entirely different matter. I released Patch in my backyard instead of in a forest. He had almost the same reaction to trees as Cletus did, except that he wanted to see everything, not just trees. He stayed up in the maple tree for about 15 minutes, then came down. After that, he became pretty much an outdoor pet. He followed me around the yard, played with me, ate food I gave him, and met me in the backyard every morning. That is, until we went on a trip and came back to find that he had disappeared. I expect that he just decided to live his own life away from our house, and I miss him just as much as Cletus. Longing to see your rescue squirrels again is not an emotional injury, but rather a pleasant memory of your fun adventures, and you can never have too many memories of these guys. If you have a rescue squirrel, I hope this video helped and was enjoyable. I just want baby squirrels to have a second chance in life and to be raised in the right way. Thanks for watching. Till next time.